Welcome to this episode of the Transformation Debrief. I'm Chris Hood, a digital strategist at Google Cloud and your host. In each episode, we aim to stir visionary thinking and share unexpected insights on transformation initiatives and lessons learned along the way. Gannett is a subscription-led and digitally focused media and marketing solutions company. Their portfolio includes USA Today, hundreds of local media outlets in 46 states, and NewsQuest, which operates 120 local media brands in the United Kingdom. Gannett also owns several digital marketing services to help create a powerful network of brands and capabilities designed to transform and preserve the future of local journalism. Today, my co-host for this episode, Kristen Kliphouse, President of Google Cloud Americas, joins me along with our guest, Erik Bursch, Senior Vice President, Consumer Product and Engineering at Gannett. Let's get to know our guest a little better.
Thank you very much. And I am excited to have this conversation today because at Google Cloud, I actually lead the Americas region for us, which includes all of our larger customers, as well as commercial businesses, startups, digital natives, et cetera, and help them transform their businesses and find value in leveraging the Google set of technologies and solutions.
Great. Thanks to be here. It's great to be here also. My responsibilities are within the digital consumer product organization and engineering at Gannett and USA Today.
One of the things we love to do to start each episode is ask a standard question for both of you. We'll start with Kristen. What was the most transformative role or decision in your career to date, and why?
The most transformative decision, I actually was helped with that decision. I had someone pushing me into that decision, which was a wonderful, actually looking back in hindsight, decision, which was to basically leave some of my focus out in the external market and working directly with customers on a first party basis to now moving into a role that actually put me a little more behind the scenes and had to look more at the operational capabilities and the scale and the globalization of the services that we had to offer in this role. And I was actually pushed into it. I really enjoy being out with the customers and engaging and helping them solve problems and thinking about innovation and the future of how technology can intersect with their business. And here I was asked, well, wait, you know customers so well, take a step back. And I want you now to help the organization think more broadly about how we operationalize all of our capabilities. And I never considered myself to be a really strong operational person. So it was a real big change for me to take, or a big transformation for me to have to take on, to now leverage a whole set of skills that I probably hadn't used as much. And they were probably latent. I can tell you those skills became heightened in that transformation. And I look back at it in hindsight, it was probably the best decision was to really jump in sometimes to your discomfort and the things that you're not comfortable doing in a transformation, and then see yourself all the way through the other side.
Yeah, I think that was very well said. I think, having that nudge, to move into more of an uncomfortable space for yourself, that's where you really see the growth, professionally, I think. And I've had a chance to really have a lot of great mentors and managers over my career. And, I came up in the operational realm and was an IC for a long time, managed several teams. And I had a manager several years ago came to me and said, I really see you as taking your next step and moving over to manage development teams and really sort of switching from that right brain to left brain side of things. And I was a little taken back at first. I was like, this is my world here. I think I do this pretty well. After a lot of conversation, I made the switch, and it really, exactly that. It really put me in that place of starting over again, right? Being uncomfortable, really diving back in and jumping the deep end with that. And, I think that really opened up several doors for me in the career. When we looked at, from a Gannett perspective, when we looked at moving to the cloud, when we looked at, I don't like to use the word DevOps because I think it means 10 different things to 10 different people. But when you look at automating your actions, whether infrastructure, or product code or otherwise, that really put me in a position to bring together my two strengths and lead Gannett in that aspect. And I've tried to do that several times for folks that I manage, right? Encourage them to take risks, to be uncomfortable in that space. And that's certainly what, as I look at my career, one of the biggest ways that I've transformed my growth.
Erik, I was going to ask you one of your biggest things that you've had to change, though, in this transformation period is really around movement to subscription, right? And I think about any industry that's changed, you've probably changed more than almost any other industry in a really short period of time. Can you talk a little bit about the business model change that you had to go through?
I mean, for a long time, content was consumed for free digitally, even though that same content was being paid for in different formats. And I think there was a really big change the last couple of years to look at users, consumers valuing what they want to consume digitally. When we talk about the digital dollar and where that's being spent, I think the users are really understanding that when they want a premium experience, whether it's access to all content, whether it's an experience that is more streamlined or otherwise, that there's a cost to that.
So not only is the business model now impacting you, we're also in an age of micro content, nuggets of information that is at our fingertips everywhere. And you're competing with other types of digital platforms that are sharing this news also.
It's all in the spectrum of where are people spending their time and the consumption. And a conversation that we've talked a lot about internally is the attention span of users. And it's really, narrowed aggressively in the last couple of years. And I tend to just use the phrase of 5 to 7 seconds of attention span. That's caused us to really rethink our products and really try to bring different components into our products.
Well, Erik, it also talks a little bit to the agility that businesses need to have today, right? To be able to transform to the different types of competition that might be out there, the different business models that you might need to apply. But that customer experience has become core to this digital transformation era that we're all part of now. And how do we really capture the opportunity that's in front of every one of us in each one of our markets? And so I think cloud is one of those great examples of how we actually help organizations start to be able to create that agility and also the scale that you're talking about globally and all different markets and a mix of mediums. The cloud is one of the big enablers for that.
And we couldn't do what we do now with moving in a lot of different directions and scaling on breaking news events and otherwise where we were even in our earlier cloud journeys that we had.
Not only does that consumer experience resonate with a lot of our listeners and people who are watching this right now, but it's also personalization. And Gannett spends a lot of time in local communities, and you've got publications across the country. How are you managing and looking at that intersection between your national news and your local area news?
And the amount of content that we publish on a daily basis across our network is massive. And we really want to know what the users want to consume, right? And that might not be what is necessarily one of the top stories on USA Today right now at the given moment. So I think personalization, and when you're talking about the massive amount of content that we publish, it's really being able to surface and find the content that's most important to that user.
Erik, when you talk about that, it is what's important at that time to the user. But we talked a little bit about the business transformation that's happened and the business model that's changed. But you've also had to change your people, because this speed that you're operating at, this culture of innovation has to have changed along the way too. Can we maybe dive in a little bit into the change that you've seen and how maybe you're doing things a little bit differently from a culture perspective to adapt to this new environment?
I think that sort of the mantra that the teams tend to hold, or the one key fact, is that they don't want to be comfortable with the status quo. And you certainly can't be comfortable in the digital media space with that. And we talked, earlier we talked about the last couple of years. It's really the last couple of months, last month, last couple of weeks. There's always change occurring.
A lot of the conversations I have with clients in your industry or in other ones, it's not just about the technology or the business model. They always go back to, okay, now how do I transform my people? And I'm glad you talk about that culture of innovation, and you've been able to recognize the things that you need inside of Gannett to foster sort of that need for innovation and people wanting to lean into it versus opting out of it, because it will make the difference between a successful transformation and a not successful transformation.
I talk to every member in my organization, in this setting, at least every couple of quarters, to where I'm asking them, what's important to you about a given position. I have a sort of a list of 10 things that I have. They're all sort of, very good things. It's work-life balance. It might be, being part of a winning team, or being engaging with different types of new technology and otherwise. And I think the biggest thing is within any company is understand what's important to your employees.
I know one of the areas that Kristen is passionate about is sustainability. And we have to dive into this topic when it comes to the transformation of news and media to digital. How's Gannett looking at that?
Yeah, so we are taking a close look at that. That's something that has been a constant piece of conversation, throughout our organization. And in a traditional sense, you had a paper published, every day of the week, and delivered to doorstep. And we have a couple different facets of our digital product. We have a traditional e-edition, which is as the newspaper looks and feels, but in a digital version. And then we have our core digital products, which are updated 24 hours a day across our platform. So yeah, it's I would say we are very, very early on in that conversation, as are our friends in the traditional media space. But it's a complex one for sure.
I'm really excited about the next 5 years, because I think we're going to see a whole wave of innovation that we've just started to scratch the surface of, because of the fact that we were so worried about getting our first workloads into the cloud.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think that it's been very clear, and I think a lot of companies understood, hey, we need to get our data into a place where we can digest it and otherwise. And that's where we're at right now from a Gannett perspective. We have data. We have so much data, right, to consume and analyze and deliver. And we're now at that sort of second or third phase of saying, okay, how do I bring that together? How do I make it meaningful and actionable for ourselves internally, rather than just creating a massive time sink for different teams to be able to try and dig for the right data between the different data sets?
Absolutely. And thank you, Erik, for joining us. It's been great having you, and a real privilege hearing what you had to say.
Thank you.
And thank you, Kristen, for being my co-host for today.
Well, I appreciate it. And thank you, Erik. Such a great partnership we have. And I really enjoy the conversation on how we're working together to transform the market.
If you would like to learn more about Gannett, we have 2 channels for you to explore. At cloud.google.com/transform, we dive deeper into this transformation journey, and you can tune into That Digital Show to hear the extended podcast version of this conversation. And don't forget, hit subscribe and join us again for our visionary thinking and lessons learned on the next episode of the Transformation Debrief.